Sorry, folks, I didn't realize this wasn't coming through the audio. Let's try this.
Synthesizers and gear, and it all runs inside of a free plugin. If you want to check it out for yourself, you could find it with the link down in the description. I have a question for you. If you created a song using AI, who owns the copyright to that song? Is it you? Is it the AI platform that you made it on? Is it nobody? Or is it the creator of the data that that AI was trained on? Well, whatever answer you think you have, you're probably wrong. And I'm starting to get pretty worried that that's about to become a really big problem. If you are a musician or a YouTuber or an artist or a content creator of any kind, this is about to become a really damn important question, because this could be the thing that kickstarts the next great copyright claiming grift, not only here on YouTube, but across, basically every platform on the internet. And the implications of this are absolutely astounding. After all the work and research and emails and testing and everything that went into the production of this video, I'm not normally one to sit here ringing the alarm bells and doing the oh my god red arrow click face thing, but I think we might be kind of fucked. And to prove it to you, I'm going to show you how I started copyright claiming myself using AI generated content for only about $30 in a couple of minutes, in clear violation of almost all the rules of all of these platforms, with zero consequences. So buckle in, because this is pretty bad. Going by the analytics here, as around 40,000 of you will remember, and as around 600,000 of you may have seen, a little while ago I posted a video where I tier listed all of the equipment here in my home studio, and then a couple of weeks later, mysteriously, that video went offline. And this video, at its core, is about why that happened, but more importantly, it's about the absolutely maddening rabbit hole that all of this sent me down. In that video, I decided to use some stock background music, which normally I don't do because I write all the music for my videos, but this one was a little bit different and it was really long and it was just kind of for fun. While I was editing the video, I went onto a royalty-free music website and grabbed some different tracks, and I happened to find one that was AI generated. It was noted that it was royalty-free, the creator even said so in the description, and I used it. I uploaded the video, and a few weeks later, wouldn't you know it, I got a copyright claim on their behalf, and that's actually a pretty big deal. If you're a content creator or musician, you're probably already familiar with the absolute hellscape that is YouTube's content ID system. This isn't even my first rodeo with it. I've produced several videos about why it's an absolute nightmare, like when I almost got a strike for using a clip of a fight at a Waffle House, or my video about why musicians who use samples or loops, even though they're royalty-free in their music, might be liable for copyright claims against the music they created with those samples. Now, you might be asking, why should you care about this in particular? Well, if you are a smaller YouTuber who maybe just recently got monetized, or maybe you're a career YouTuber who has an external editor who handles the music in your videos, or maybe you run a very large channel and edit all your videos yourself, or whatever, if you use music in the background of your videos and it happens to be AI generated, or you use AI music specifically because you assume it's safe for copyright claims, YouTube might have just made one of the most impactful and terrible decisions when it comes to copyright and music on this platform. And even though none of it is really legally enforceable, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. If you're not familiar, when a copyright claim is filed on your video on YouTube, the monetization from that video is held in an escrow account. This means that nobody gets the money until this claim is resolved. In the case that you win, you're all good and you get the money. If you lose, though, the money for that video now goes to whoever made the claim. You could dispute this, but there can be massive consequences if you lose that dispute. You might get a copyright strike, or maybe even lose your channel altogether. Long story short, Content ID is a fingerprinting system from Google that detects copyrighted content from the internet in its database. Using a variety of different services, you or anyone else could upload content to this database to have it tracked across different platforms so that if and when your copyrighted content is used without your permission, you are notified and in some cases compensated. At its core, Content ID was designed as a good thing. It's there to protect your copyrighted works, and it's an extraordinarily powerful tool for copyright protection. The problem is, it can be pretty easily abused. So why does this matter exactly? There are no shortage of distribution services out there that someone could use to distribute AI-generated music and get it added to Google's Content ID database, so that anyone who uses it, or uses something that sounds enough like it to trigger the Content ID system to flag it, ends up getting to have their copyright claim filed, and if someone disputes it, it comes back to you to decide, nope, too bad, and away you go. Now, in fairness, most of these music distribution platforms will have some sort of safeguard that says, hey, before you upload this, you need to check this box that says it wasn't AI generated, or you need to check this box that says it doesn't use any commercial loops or samples that might trip other people's songs up because that's not fair and yada yada yada. But there's literally nothing preventing you from just clicking the right boxes and uploading it anyway, even though it's a clear violation of that platform's terms of service. So, that's exactly what I did. Before we get any further into the weeds, though, we should probably take a quick refresher here on how copyright works when it comes to music. Because even if you're just a human making human music for other humans and you have no interest in AI whatsoever, these same things that protect your copyrights as a person are the same things that make AI music such a nightmare and could even affect your music even if you've never used or have any interest in AI whatsoever. But we're gonna get into all that in a minute. Music copyright works on just a couple basic cornerstones. After you've written a piece of music, you own the copyright to it, and this is protected and determined by just a few key factors, like the melody, the lyrics, if there are any, the distinctive structure and voice leadings, and other defining characteristics that identify that specific song against another one. Broadly speaking, the two key factors that determine a copyright dispute are substantial similarity, or if the average person would say the two songs are the same, and the idea of access, or if the person infringing on the rights of one song could have reasonably had access to hear the original and then copy it in some way. Determining the outcome of one of these disputes really falls down to argument much of the time, and that's really the source of all of the "did artist A really just steal artist B's song" videos and lawsuits and all that we've seen about 1 billion times over by now. All this raises the ultimate question here. Does AI-generated music or content really have any sort of claim to copyright? And the answer is no. Kinda. Sorta. Maybe. Back in 2023, the US Copyright Office set out a few rulings for how copyright and AI-generated content works. Broadly speaking, AI-generated content has no ability to claim copyright protection and is not protected in any real way. However, they did say that if there is sufficient human authorship involved, then that work may be eligible for copyright protection. This raises the all too important question, what exactly is sufficient human authorship? And the answer to that is nobody really knows, because this has never been challenged or taken to court where any precedent has been set, and at least at the time of making this video, this means that we are still in the Wild West hellscape of AI-generated content and its copyright protection eligibility, and it's gonna get a whole lot worse before it gets any better. In fact, just a couple weeks ago, I was offered a pretty significant amount of money to promote some other AI platform that claims it's offering a robust set of monetization tools for AI creators, specifically so that they can start grifting money off the internet with all this AI music slop garbage. The core of the problem here starts to emerge when you think about not just how AI music is generated, but also how copyright works with music in general, as we discussed earlier. These AI models are trained on databases of music, but almost none of them have clearly stated where exactly these databases were sourced from. In one rare and particularly troubling insight, Back in August of 2024, the co-founder of Suno admitted that their models are trained on music they sourced from the open internet. The open internet, as you can probably guess, is just the internet at large, and this means that any music out there on the surface web was considered fair game by any platform that trained on it. This is also why the RIAA opened up legal complaints against several major AI music platforms, claiming that the platforms were trained on the music of artists without their consent. The argument here largely falls down to a thought experiment in the world of AI content creation, commonly referred to as the Chinese room experiment. To put it very simply, if you put a person in a room where they saw some Chinese symbols and all they had were some rules and a data set to reference to create a response that is accurate and makes sense, they could then output some kind of response based on the input. On the outside, it would appear that whoever is in the box clearly speaks fluent Chinese, when in reality they're just referencing some rules that they have to formulate a response without any idea what that response actually means or implies. This is probably an easy way to see why AI-generated music is a real problem, especially when it generates something that's similar enough to an existing artist's work, and really why it's a problem that it exists altogether. Because AI-generated music has melody, lyrics, and voice leading, and the other general defining characteristics that we classify as a piece of music, technically, it meets all the same requirements that human-created music does to qualify for copyright protection. Now this in itself could be a whole video deep dive rabbit hole, so we're just gonna kinda have to move on here for the sake of time. But hopefully that makes sense as to why AI causes so many problems for copyright and music. Because whatever it creates, in theory, all it would take is someone to then upload that to a service like Content ID to cause a whole lot of headaches and problems for the rest of us. To test all this out, I ended up going on Suno and asked it to create some music that sounds like me. And of course, there are now protections against asking it to imitate certain artists, but by engineering the prompt a little bit and with a little bit of trial and error, I was actually able to get pretty damn close to my own tracks. This is something that a lot of artists and labels are upset at, especially when you see that there are entire websites or forums dedicated to prompts that you can use to emulate a specific artist's sound. You may have seen this cropping up on different streaming services where people have used AI to imitate a specific artist's style and then released tracks or albums under that artist's name, trying to get some money out of it. One streaming platform, Audius, even touts this as a feature and actively encourages artists to allow people to rip off their music. Now, in fairness, and I guess in the interest of playing devil's advocate a little bit here, you can say that all music can be broken down and classified with things like genre and instrumentation and arrangement and whatnot. This isn't that big of a deal. However, when you consider that musically speaking, all it takes to cause a problem here is for one thing to sound enough like another thing. And in this case, it's an AI-generated thing versus a human thing, but the AI-generated thing was told to generate something that specifically sounds like this specific human. If that human makes more music or uses a melody that sounds similar to the AI thing, and the creator of that AI thing uploaded that result to a service that adds it to Content ID, that's going to start causing a lot of headaches for everybody. This all becomes even more of a nightmare when you understand that some services also offer ways to upload a clip of audio to base a result on. This in particular creates a really unique problem for musicians and labels and anyone running a music catalog going forward, because when you take into account something like licensing, let's say, where someone wants to use your song in a TV show or a video game or a movie trailer or something, and they decide for some reason that they don't want to license it from you because they can't afford it or they don't want to or whatever, all they would need to do is take a clip of your song and upload it to one of these AI services that features a reference audio input function and then generate something based on that that's legally different enough, maybe, to circumvent the need to license it from you. As an example of this, check out these two clips. I uploaded a clip of one of my original songs and then used the AI reference audio function to generate something different. Now that really sucks, because I guess you could say that's different enough to not technically be the same thing, and that would mean whoever uses that is free and clear to do so. And in theory, if they released the soundtrack for whatever that went into and decided to copyright it, I could be infringing on their copyrights, maybe to some degree. Or if I write more music in the future, I could be infringing on my own copyright of their maybe copyright because I wrote music that sounded too much like me. And unfortunately, there are no real protections against this either. Even though platforms like Suno will claim that tracks that are using copyrighted works or have vocals detected are stuck as being private or cannot otherwise be downloaded, you could simply record the output of a free tool like OBS and then use it and be on your merry way. As a reasonable human being, you would probably hope and pray that siphoning money off of creators using AI-generated content and copyright claiming them would be way more work than it's really worth. But the truth is, it's actually really easy, and it's not even that expensive to get started. So I did it to myself, and it took me less than 20 minutes. I went onto an AI music creator, I generated some stuff with a free account, I downloaded the track, and then slapped it underneath some footage of me talking, and then uploaded that to my alternate YouTube account. Then I created an account with the music distribution service. I uploaded that AI-generated track and paid the fee for Content ID. All said and done, this took me about 15 minutes and cost me roughly $30. And wouldn't you know it, a little while later, I got a notification that my video was copyright claimed by me for using my AI-generated track. Now, you might be sitting there pretty fucking horrified thinking, why is there no enforcement for any of this? And the unfortunate truth is, there kinda can't be. With the service I used to upload the music, even though I was in clear violation of their policies for submitting this to Content ID, all I had to do was just check the right boxes and it was uploaded and submitted with no questions asked. On YouTube's end, after disputing the claim on my own video that prompted this whole video, YouTube's response was simply that they're just not in a position to determine or enforce any of this, and it's just a matter of too bad, so sad, better luck next time, sucks to be you. This means that the only real way for me to take this any further to resolve the dispute would be to go out, hire lawyers, take all of this to court for what would inevitably be a very long and pointless and expensive legal battle just to prove the point to YouTube that this was AI generated and shouldn't be eligible for copyright protection through systems like Content ID. Ultimately, this means that there's no real protection and no real enforcement. So if I decided to sit down and make a bunch of AI-generated music slop and upload that to a bunch of free background music for YouTube video websites that are popular, and then I decided to start claiming people through Content ID, well, they're f***ed. It probably goes without saying that the implications of this and how far-reaching they are is extremely troubling, to put it lightly. If you're a musician, in theory, if your music you wrote sounds too similar to a track that someone else made with AI and then they decided to add their track to Content ID, you could get claimed. If someone likes your music, but they can't afford what you're asking to license it, or just don't want to bother asking to license it, they could just rip it off using the audio input functions of some of the more popular platforms. And if the results sounded similar enough, who knows? Maybe now you're infringing on their copyrighted works because the next song you wrote sounded too much like you. If you're a content creator, if you use any AI-generated music in your videos, all it would take is for the creator of that AI track to add it to Content ID, and now you are magically violating their copyrighted work. If you don't use any AI music, but you use music that sounds close to something that someone generated with AI, they could probably claim that as well, and you'll likely lose, because YouTube, a literal multi-billion-dollar corporation, has absolutely no way to enforce or determine the rights to anything, and, well, it just sucks to be you. This is all a giant nightmare, and you might be asking, what can we do about any of this? And the unfortunate answer is, not a whole lot. Until we modernize copyright laws and some of these cases of AI-generated content copyright claims and such are taken to court and precedents are set to establish new laws to keep up with the pace of technology, we're kind of doomed. And unfortunately, the reality of that is, even if one country decides a certain thing, international laws could vary and you still could be just as liable somewhere else as you are where you are now. Even if you're a creator who's not using AI-generated music in your videos, or you're a musician who's not using any kind of AI to create your music, you're still just as liable to respect the apparent magical copyrights of anyone who craps out a bunch of AI garbage and decides to hit the magical Content ID button. The frustrating and short truth of it all here is that it's probably going to take a while before any of this gets resolved, and it's probably ultimately just going to be resolved in favor of whoever has the most money to throw at the problem. Oh, man. I guess I should maybe apologize here if this video ends on what feels like a little bit of a bummer, huh? I wish there was a brighter, chipper ending I could slap onto all this with something I could say or advice I would give or some action we could take to prevent all of this or help with all of this, but at least at the time of making this video, there's just not. So I guess instead I could end it with this. You should not ever stop making the art or music or stories or videos or whatever it is you love to make because of this whole situation and these stupid AI companies that, let's be real, are probably just some kind of complicated VC money laundering scheme that we'll find out about 5 years from now, because one day you're gonna die. And if this is what you gave up doing the things you love over, you're gonna look back on your life and die with a whole bunch of regret, and that would suck. So I guess maybe more simply, I'll just end all of this with my favorite quote of all time. You only get to die once, so make sure it was worth it. Hey there, me again. Videos like this are a pretty huge undertaking. In this case, like 160 hours, I believe, for this video from start to finish. And as you can tell, I am just one person. So to research, write, film, edit, and produce one of these videos, it's a lot of work, not to mention the financial black hole that this channel continues to be between all of the equipment and time it takes to produce these types of videos. And none of this would be possible without the support of my patrons and other supporters. If you're one of them, sincerely, thank you. Literally none of this would be possible without you. If you're not one of them, though, and you enjoy this video and want to support the channel so I can find enough caffeine and take enough time off actually working to make more videos like this, you can join up with the links down below, or if you can't afford that for some reason, that's totally fine. I get it. You could check out my free instruments or sample packs or whatever. You can share this video, or you can just go out there and have a great rest of your day. So, yeah, I guess that's it. You can leave now. Like, for real, this is actually kind of awkward. Okay, well, I'll for you then.
Sorry, folks, I had my microphone muted. So I'm going to suggest you all go and follow Venus Theory on the YouTube. He has a lot of really good content, very insightful, very thoughtful, and he makes his videos with a lot of care and professionalism. He's he's also a genuinely nice guy. He has a Discord that I'm part of. I'm a member of. He's got a great approach to community. He's one with the fart jokes as much as he is with the highbrow musical analysis and industry commentary. But yeah, so we're starting to descend into Glasgow now. If I show you our charts, there we go. We're actually now onto the descent page, and we're about halfway through our flat planned descent. So we're going to update our target altitude to